An American hero was viciously slashed across the face by a Syrian asylum seeker in Germany after he heroically tried to defend two women the asylum seeker was viciously assaulting.
Y'all didn't think that Europe had an immigration problem, especially Germany. Let me drop some knowledge on you. It is 11:57 right now. In 3 minutes, that man that assaulted that young woman yesterday will be released from custody. He'll be released from custody because he's not a citizen of Germany. He's not a citizen of the EU for that matter. He doesn't even belong in here. He's an immigrant, an illegal one, a drug dealer, and very popularly known here, especially by the police. This is not the first time this has happened. It's not the first time that man had beat up a woman, and it's not the first time that the other guy decided to take a swing at my face with a 6-inch blade. If they could do this to the people of Germany and then just get released 12 hours later, even less at this point, where's the law? Where's the structure? If Germans are held to that law and that structure, but these people could just come in, swing knives, and hurt, abuse, terrorize, and oppress citizens of Germany, then.
The critic. Germany is acknowledging the unspeakable. A pattern of criminality is shattering taboos. There were 214,000 violent crimes, a 15-year high and an increase of 8.6%. Robberies were up 17.4%. Knife crimes, 9.7%. Homicides were up 2.1%. Sex crimes, 2.4%. Crimes involving knives nearly tripled between 2020, 10,121 incidents, and 2023, 26,230 incidents. As this graph shows, from 2013 to 2023, the migrant share of crime has been increasing year by year. An internal analysis leaked to the Welt newspaper showed that knife crimes in northern Rhine-Westphalia shot up 45% over a recent 12-month interval. Other statistics from that state. In 2023, 80% of pickpocketers were foreigners, as were 47% of shoplifters, 47% of burglars, 41% of homicide suspects, and 37% of suspects in violent sex crimes. The Germany-wide statistics on sexual violence were also sobering. An internal study by the German Federal Law Enforcement Agency leaked to a Zurich newspaper revealed that asylum seekers have committed some 7,000 sexual assaults, ranging from groping to gang rape, between 2015 and 2023. Although they make up only 2.5% of the population, asylum seekers made up 13% of all sexual assault suspects in 2021. And that's only asylum seekers, guys, and they only... That's insane. In 2023, there were 761 gang rapes registered in Germany, almost 2 per day. 47.5% of the suspects were foreigners. The frequency of such crimes, which were rare in Germany as late as the 1990s, has hovered between 600 and 800 per year for the past 7 years. The statistics go on for page after mind-numbing or mind-boggling page. Berlin's police chief delivered the upshot. Bluntly stated, our numbers show that violence in Berlin is young, male, and has a non-German background. What is straining German law enforcement and society is the sheer number of young male asylum seekers. Germany famously relaxed its border controls in 2015-2016, permitting an influx of 1.3 million people from countries such as Syria, Afghanistan, Iran, and Turkey. Then as now, about 70% of asylum seekers were male, and most under 35 years old. Current numbers are off this peak, but still high. In 2023, 351,000 asylum seekers entered Germany, more than the population of Germany's former capital, Bonn. Most of these men have no German skills, little education. A 2016 study revealed only 34% could read the Latin alphabet, no experience with alcohol, and no experience interacting with women not related to them.
The cut was so deep that when I looked at myself in the reflection of the glass panel on the tram, I could visibly tell that my nose was cut in half. That fear shouldn't be there. We should feel confident in each other as citizens of the same city, more or less the same country, to not do that to each other. But in that moment, after I got slashed and I'm sitting down, I knew everything was going to be okay. You know, I came on the tram and saw a woman there. Initially, later on, a guy had come up, really verbal, loud, harassing, was walking towards the woman as though he was looking to harm her or aggressive towards her. In that kind of situation, I stood up. I was like, is everything okay? Like, stop, don't touch her, don't hit her. He was getting a little bit aggressive with her at that time. This guy, man, I've worked in emergency medical services for over a year now. And I'm familiar with what people look like when they're on drugs and how people act when they're on drugs. This guy is, as everybody in the tram could also probably tell, so overtly aggressive that he must have been on something. And he came over after, like I mentioned before, he was being aggressive with a female, he was harassing her. I stood up, I said, stop. He turned that aggression towards me. With a quick kind of exchange of words, we sat back down. I was worried about her safety as much as everybody else on the tram, that this guy could very well go do that too as well. And so I sat down for a second. I was a little bit, in a mode where I was hyper observant of what was going on. I was worried about her safety behind me and everybody else's on the tram, including my friends and my own.
How many people were on the train now?
Oh, a lot, man. I didn't quite count, and people were constantly moving in and out. But when I heard the woman's screams and her shouting, it sounded to me like the clear tone of somebody that is in distress and needs help. And when she stood up, the man physically had a physical altercation with her that led to her being thrown on the chairs. And to that, I was like, that's not going to happen. Yeah, he grabbed her and threw her. And in response to that, my first reaction was obtain distance. We're not here to start a brawl. We're not here to start a fight. Shouted to him again, stop, don't do that. And he took that as this abstract assault, and he threw punches, and we had a short and very quick altercation. I was not in an offensive posture at all. I was reactory to the attacks he was giving me. And he continued to try and kick me by supporting himself with the poles after he got that distance too. It did not work. However, right at that moment, I remember I heard a click. I looked over, I saw another man, and then I felt a swift slice on my face.
And despite these stark numbers, you have the media in Europe, DW, a German media group. Immigration has not raised German crime rate. Gaslighting the people, of course. Then you have the IFO Institute. More foreigners do not increase Germany's crime. And when I asked Google AI what proportion of violent offenses in Germany are migrants responsible for, according to Germany's police crime statistics for 2024, foreign nationals were suspects in 41.8% of all violent crimes. This is disproportionately high, given that they made up approximately 17% of the total population. This data, however, is subject to important nuance and context, which is highlighted by criminologists and reports from Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office. 2024 violent crime statistics. Violent crime. For 2024, foreign nationals were suspects in 41.8% of violent crimes. Asylum seekers. This subset of migrants is particularly overrepresented, accounting for 18% of suspects in 2024, though they only make up 4% of the population. Sexual offenses. Non-German suspects were responsible for just over 1/3 of rapes and sexual assaults in 2024. Factors affecting statistical overrepresentation. Experts warn against interpreting these numbers as a simple correlation between migration and violent crime. Of course, several factors contribute to the statistical overrepresentation of foreign nationals. Demographics. Asylum seekers and migrants are disproportionately young and male, a demographic that is statistically more prone to committing crimes regardless of nationality. Well, didn't you just admit something? Haven't the Pragues been telling us all along in Europe and in the United States that these are just poor, beset upon families? That it's not, what we're seeing with our own eyes isn't true, that these aren't predominantly young, military-aged males hopping the border, right? Socioeconomic status. Migrants often face difficult living conditions, lack of employment opportunities, and social deprivation. Their living expenses are paid for by the taxpayers of Germany. They're put up in fancy hotels. They're fed. They're pampered. Their health care is taken care of. What are you talking about? Urbanization. Migrants often settle in urban areas, which tend to have higher crime rates and population densities than rural areas, inflating crime rates for this group. Sure, yeah, they're just going buck wild because they live in the city. That's it. Reporting bias. Some studies indicate that crimes involving foreign nationals and German victims are more likely to be reported to the police. There's also a higher likelihood of reporting it if the victim and perpetrator are non-German but from different ethnic groups. Well, you know what? I highly doubt some poor German woman who is just gang blanked is refusing to name the suspects if they just happen to be of German descent. You know, I find that highly improbable. Types of crime. General crime statistics include immigration-related, no. Violent offenses, 41%. You just said so yourself. When I asked Grok's AI what proportion of violent offenses is committed by migrants in Germany, proportion of violent offenses committed by migrants in Germany. The term migrants and it's just a bunch of bullshit. 2024 data, preliminary, released April 2025. Total violent crimes, 17,277 cases, up 1.5% from 2023. New crime high since 2007. Non-German suspects, 41% overall, up 0.7 from 2023. 85,012 in violence specifically, up 7.5%. Key trends, sharp rise in youth suspects. Children up 11.3%. Juveniles up 3.8%, with non-Germans driving much of it. Knife attacks rose 10%, with 37 to 40% non-German suspects. Asylum seekers, 18% of violent suspects, despite 4% population share. Linked to trauma, camp conditions, and demographics. Overall crime fell 1.7 due to cannabis legalization, but violence rose independently. Per capita, non-Germans have a higher suspect load, 5 to 6,000 per 100,000 versus 1,900 for Germans. Debunking common myths. And then, it just does the same thing that Google AI does. Excuses. In summary, 35 to 41% of violent offense suspects are migrants, non-Germans, but this reflects demographic, blah, 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 blah. But evidence shows integration, not blame, is key. Well, what do you know? Google AI and Grok AI came up with the same conclusion, that 41 point something or another percent of all violent crime committed in Germany is committed by migrants, while they only make up 18% of the population. Wouldn't you know? So basically, we have Google AI, we have Grok AI, and we have the German media shilling and trying to make repeated excuses for the overrepresentation of migrants in violent crime in Germany. Why? I'm just asking, why are the German media, why is Google AI and why is Grok AI, all of them colluding together to try to minimize this obvious violent crime wave from migrants in Germany? Isn't it kind of interesting, guys? Like, gosh, if I didn't know any better, I'd say this was a conspiracy. This is obvious collusion. Like, and then the next question, okay, so that question is asked and answered. So the next question is, why? Why are they colluding? Why are they trying to hide this information? Why are they trying to gaslight the native populations of Western countries? Very ominous, very dark. And it's something that us conservatives have been trying to tell you guys for the longest. But I guess we're conspiracy theorists, We got our tinfoil hats on. We're just imagining all this stuff, right? I mean, I'm just imagining that Google AI and Grok AI come with the exact same statistic. 41% of violent offenders in Germany are of migrant background. Not even migrant backgrounds, but they're straight up foreign nationals. Can you imagine how much worse the statistics are if we take into account people with migrant backgrounds? Man, I'm telling you guys, things are dark, things are bad, but you know what? If you share my videos, screw my videos, just share the truth. You know, like, screw me. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's all of us together. Fight this, guys. Don't just be sheep willingly being led to the slaughter. Fight back.